Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has stated that nepotism in Nigeria is obstructing the fight against corruption and has accused the former president or the president of fiscal indiscipline and bias in the fight against corruption. Of course, joining me again is Sam Adeleke, political analyst, and of course Fumi Adosomu Ayola, political analyst. It's good to have you join us again. Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, I like to call all of his names. Aremu, Okikiola. Yes, he's very good at making these speeches or writing letters.
He was invited to Moscow.
He's
an influential leader.
He's a very vocal person.
Even though controversial.
A lot of people might not necessarily like him because, you know, they feel that he speaks when it's convenient.
In fact, some do say that presidential library will be taken over soon by subsequent governments when he dies because it was built with public funds.
Interesting. We'll get into that. But now, former president is saying that the nepotism in Nigeria is obstructing the fight against corruption in what seemed like reporting the country's leadership to the world at that summit he went to. Some Nigerians find it that he just speaks at will when it's convenient for him. But again, he's speaking about nepotism. Yeah. I'll start with you, Fumi. We know that there's been a lot of controversy when it comes to appointments into the federal cabinet, and we're gradually getting to that point again. After 6 months, we saw a lopsided, kind of appointments, and Nigerians didn't really like that. And we're hoping for something better. But the very first appointment the president has made to the NNPC is yet another Northeasterner. So does that have anything to do with what Obasanjo is saying?
First of all, I think the general is a case of...
Former general.
Former general, yeah.
PMB.
It's a case of pot calling the kettle black. Please ask me. I mean, if you ask me. Because in his own time, he did exactly the same thing. So, really? Yes. I mean, a lot of his appointees came from the southwest side. Yes, you should go read it. Because, you see, when I hear this kind of thing...
Well, I don't have to read it. I was there.
No, I'm trying to say is that, look, the honest truth is like, if you notice, when banks change MDs and all that, the first people they surround themselves with are people they've worked with before, and they feel that these are my people. They will work with me.
That's a bank. This is a country.
No, I'm just saying that.
There's a lot of ethnic
basically,
divides.
Yes, I agree. But basically, that's the way most people generally, you're in a position, you want to be sure that you have people that you can, at the top of your fingers, say, do this, and they listen to you, or you can understand them. Right, fine. But yes, I agree that there is nepotism. I mean, and it is not, forgive me, it is not peculiar to government. It's rampant in the whole of Nigeria. I mean, if you go to Anambra, how many Yoruba people are there that have land or they have houses? If you go to Aba market, how many people from Hausa, how many Hausa people own stores there? So this nepotism thing, it cuts across the entire nation. That's what we always do. I think the only state that doesn't do this is Lagos State.
But how does it fuel corruption? How does it obstruct the fight against corruption?
No,
because he's tying it
to
the fight against corruption. So where does all of this tie?
No, but it will. I mean, if my younger sister is minister, if I'm president and my younger sister is minister for petroleum, she's probably not going to do any wrong. And it's easier for you to. That's why in some companies they say married people shouldn't work together, because it's easier for you to connive and. Yes, that's the honest truth. It's easier for you to connive and cause fraud and stuff like that. That's why the former general is making all this noise. The truth of the matter is that you can't have somebody who's related to you or somebody who you grew up with, to be your, if you can't surround yourself with people like that and not expect that corruption will thrive, because you can't tell them no.
Interesting.
I also want to add that why does this fuel corruption? Simple. It also fuels rent seeking, because you are appointing someone that is loyal to you because it's from your tribe, not because it's competent. Assuming we are talking about competence right now, all this would not be a factor.
But shouldn't that actually be the case? Because
it should be mainstream. Competence,
I'm going to use an example, classic example. A Donald Duke, when he was governor, had members of his cabinet who were not even from Cross River. The guy who was in charge of the tourism bureau at the time, who built Cross River and brought it to the top, was not from that state. He had people who were from the Southwest, you know, in his government. And he said it all the time. He was pretty vocal about it, that he was more about professionalism and meritocracy than, you know, just doing it for the purpose of, you know, federal character and stuff
correct.
like that. But shouldn't that be, in a country where we're literally striving, we're literally trying to get by, and we need development at the fast rates? I was listening to the business news, and I hear that we're inching towards a recession again. Shouldn't you be looking for the best hands and not necessarily your uncles or your cousins and your stepsisters?
You know, that's why Nigeria's case fascinates some of us. Replicate success. There is nothing new under the sun. The fact that you have over 250 ethnic groups and divisions and nations does not mean that it is difficult to gather people of different languages together. Like you have said, the Cross River example, I also work in the tourism industry and understand the impact of professionalism. You cannot just bring someone to run a parastatal or an agency because the person speaks my language. It should be about competence. So I think this government is deliberate about this nepotism, and it should be fought against, and that's why we should not shut down the messenger just because the message.
No, you shouldn't allow the message because the messenger has a
Well, because in an Obasanjo scenario, every time Obasanjo says something, I mean, recently there was the Fulanization and the Islamization, and people were saying, what are you talking about? You took over from a Fulani. You handed over to a Fulani. You know, they're saying you have no moral rights. And now again, of course, people are saying you were the first to even say that. Let me explain myself. So let me just. Are we throwing out the baby with the bath water?
No, I agree
with you.
No, but the honest truth is, let me put it this way: Nigeria, the problem we have is this federal character thing. That is and has always been.
But was that not supposed to be a solution, a means to an end?
But it was never a solution now. Why would it be a case of federal character? Why must I take a minister from every state?
I'm guessing that maybe you cannot say that in this whole of the Southwest you would not have a doctor, someone who's a professional, that is a doctor, or a lawyer, or an engineer, or a tourism expert.
Why must
and that is why
every state?
We
so you can't just say, well, you see the Southwest, everybody in the Southwest went to school, so let's just use all the guys from the Southwest. So
the truth is, everybody in the Southwest, if people
feel left out, don't you think
that's my problem. If people in the Southwest are better educated and better professionals than people in the Northwest, why not?
By what standards?
But by all standards, put all of them in an examination room, for goodness sakes.
Well, so we're going to start writing.
No, I'm just saying. You see, it's federal character that has killed us in this country. In education, federal character. One state, if they have 20, they will enter university. Another state, they must reach 300 before they enter the same university. Let's be honest. It's federal character that has killed us. If the person that can deliver for you, if all four of them are in one part of the country, but they are the best in their field, why not use them?
I don't think federal character is what is killing us.
Okay.
Because federal character, like you said, was an answer to agitation. People were agitating that they were being marginalized, that they were being not represented. And that is why we have over 360 members of the House of Representatives, 109 senators. We have over 500 people representing us. When that should not be so. So much spent on few people representing us who are actually not representing us.
Explain why federal character is not the way.
Why, for example, if we have 36 ministers from each state, competent people, delivering, doing their job well, this will not be an issue. So it's not so much about the methods, it's about the end. Because yes, we're saying end justify the means, but when the means is not giving us the end, and you've tried to say, okay, now let's have all Fulanis
has failed us. Let's try something.
And no federal character, which is what was happening here now. As it also helped us. So that means there's something really wrong with saying federal character, nepotism. If nepotism will make Nigeria work, so be it. But if it is not working, then we need to start assessing and interrogating the methods, because we can't do the same thing over and over and expect
Let's
a
go
different
to
result.
a couple more things that the former president said. He described corruption and development as strange bedfellows, warning that people in authority would remain deluded as long as their definition of corruption is when money, goods and services are involved. He also said that nepotism is a form of corruption, and condoning what is bad in the height of is a height of corruption. He said lack of fiscal discipline is corruption. So corruption and development cannot meet. You must eschew corruption. You must make sure that you make significant progress. Let's start with that. He's given us a case study.
Let's start with him and every leader who has ruled Nigeria.
Great.
Because he that must come to equity must come to equity with clean hands. When people see what you are doing with billions of naira and they cannot trace the source of your wealth, that is corruption. If you cannot ask questions and people give you answers with proof, that is corruption. Because the way we throw the word around,
but he's making a case here. He's saying
that even understand
that the problem. He's saying that the mistake that we make. He's not in any way. I don't think he's
absolving himself.
I don't think he's jettisoning the fact that money laundering and all of those things isn't corruption. But he's saying that we would remain deluded if we just center corruption on money, goods and services.
Every country in the
He's
world
talking
is
about intent. He's talking about actions
thing.
also, that these can also lead to corruption.
I have a simple question for my former general. All this he's saying now, why didn't he say it when he was president? Or why didn't he decide to
maybe it's
sanitize?
Maybe
why
it's
didn't he
sanitize
He set
from
up
the outside
EFCC
in?
and the ICPC, which he used to hound his
It's
opponents.
exactly what he's complaining.
Sometimes when you're seated there are lots of things that blur your vision, and then when you're on the outside in, you could see a bit more clearly.
Then be an
example. Can say that.
Restitute.
He can't even say that. He was
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
He was head of state. And he was president. He can't even go in that direction.
Have you been a president before?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what it takes to be a
president?
Do you know
but you see, he's had two opportunities. Let's say the first time he was blurred.
So because
let's say the first time he was blurry.
Become president, then we should not hold him accountable.
It's just a question.
No, the truth of matter is that I'm sorry, he was the one that decided to be president. Then he needs to be held accountable. It's as easy as that.
There are other countries in the world whereby their former presidents are in jail because of corruption. The Brazilian president, in Vietnam, Singapore, we have seen how these people have held previous presidents and previous leaders accountable. And these are served as examples.
Yes.
If people do not see scapegoats, people do not see people who have been in power, leadership, forfeit everything they've stolen. It would not serve an example. We can't just talk. Corruption is not a tab paper. It's not a topic. It's not a book to be written.
Who's going to hold these people accountable? Is it the guys that are their friends?
We keep going in circles because the people
let me give you an example.
The guys who allegedly, they're.
When Tafawa Balogun was sentenced to, was it 40 days? Was it 4 months? I can't remember.
In prison. That was served concurrently.
Yes, it ended up being 40 days. I had this big auntie who was a judge in Lagos State. She said since that time, there is no case that comes to her. The judgment is no more than 40 days. She said because the day before she had just sentenced somebody to 2 years in prison for stealing yam. And then somebody stole billions. And it was 4 months or some very ridiculous amount of time. Said that was it. Said there's no judgment that comes, there's no case that comes to our court. The highest amount of time.
But talking about that, the judiciary also plays a role here. I remember when the president just came in his first tenure, he complained about the fact that the judiciary is somewhat, dampening that fight against corruption. And we also need to address the judiciary because, as much as all of these arms of government work together, they also have their own independence.
Democratic. Yes. It rolled out a Gestapo style of harassment, sending SSS officials to these judicial officers' homes in the middle of the night and intimidated them. Also, the point whereby he was able to remove the sitting CJ. Never done the history of Nigeria except through the military junta. So that also has been backed with action, although which a lot of people didn't find
problem. But then the guy will go slow, they will insult him. If you do fast, they will still insult him.
But then, if he is someone who also obeys the law, he has broken the law in many ways. Look for example, El Zaki, and people who has been held despite continuous and repeated court judgments. So you cannot say you are fighting something when you yourself, you have repeatedly, slapped the law or slapped justice in its face. It's not possible. Sure. So even though we know that no leader is perfect, but there are things that are obvious. Even the ECOWAS courts ruled that release this man and other people who have been kept behind bars. So these are examples of things that even judicial officers see that, okay, if the government and the president is not doing this, you get it's about the top. What you do from the top trickles down.
But you can't say about the top because you see the CJN is as powerful as the president. Just as the speaker. Hold on. Yes. Because the speaker is almost they are in their own right. Arms of government, and they're independent. So you can't tell me that a president would decide what a judiciary does or what a National Assembly does. They're all there to complement each other,
we also
not to be oppressed
the DSP
by one
kneeling
another.
down to greet the president. I thank you for allowing me to become a DSP.
No. I don't agree with it. No. That was We all saw that picture. No, we all saw the picture. But the other
that is not the way Southerners greet. El Rufai does that. I will say, okay, that's really Fulani.
No, let me
How
explain
can
to you.
If you go to, you're not trying to.
Let's see.
If you go to Japan today and you have a business deal with them, you're going to greet them in their way. Yes, it's as easy as that. You will greet them in their way. It's that. I mean, I think
South people Deltas.
No, he was not greeting South. He wasn't greeting a South person. Was he?
Oh my God. So why wasn't the Senate president greeting the president in that same way or any other person? No other person greets Buhari that way except.
But does he not have a right to greet the president?
There's no big deal. I think we're making a mountain.
I'll give you an example. I brought someone here today, and she's a big preacher. Yeah. And one of my colleagues literally laid on the floor and said hello while other people were shaking him. Does that mean that he's...
But those are not two separate arms of government. We're talking about the legislature. It is a contextual discussion. No. Greeting and gestures and manners are all over the world. It's simply culture.
It's exactly that's what the guy did.
What makes an arm of government independent.
So if
because we decided to greet the guy in his own culture.
Actions are symbolic. These are things that are being shown to the world. Things that if he did it in private, but in public, bending down and kneeling down to the president as a DSP elect after the elections.
He did not kneel down. He greeted him
so way... You're trying to tell me that bowing or kneeling down to greet a president means that they work for the president? Because they were elected by their constituents and they have as much political power as a president.
We also, even before, let's be about that greeting. Okay, so before the election, they went to the president and the APC chairman presented the candidates that these are the people...
Because they're members of the same party.
Oh, exactly.
Wow. So where do we draw the line between party loyalty and government independence? Because these are three separate arms of government.
No. I think being a party I think we're the ones that actually
should have done that at the APC secretariat in Abuja, not at the seat of power.
The man is the president now.
They're going to the executive arm, to Aso Rock, where the president is. Party functions should be held in the party secretariat.
So these are symbolic events. I'm just curious. I want to take you up on this. You're telling me that Nancy Pelosi, because she is who she is, will be rude to a president or will not bow and shake the president. I mean, have you seen, what's her name, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? She curtsies.
Yes,
when she curtsies when she sees the Queen.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that she's less of a Prime Minister.
Is not an arm of government. My
so
God.
Let's move on from this. What's the way forward? I wanted to ask a question about us Nigerians being nepotic, because every time attention is drawn to a person or a politician who's doing wrong, we say, oh, it's witch hunting. It's because it's our brother.
Yes, no.
So where do we even start in fighting nepotism? Because we don't have time. Let's just finishing statements from you guys.
No, I think that really is the problem in Nigeria. Where I worked in an organization where the organization went down because they were all bringing up they were all interviewing, they were all employing their brothers and their sisters. When somebody gets there, the person's father had been in that system, the person's uncle had been in that system. By the time they finished with the company, we're in deficit of like 6 billion naira because nobody will, once somebody has done a fraud and they catch the person, you just call my father. Father will call the,
Okay,
and
we're running out of time, I'm being told.
Yeah.
Where do we start to deal with this from? Quickly.
Nepotistic leaders will always arise. They will always be there because people want to remain in their comfort zone. It is easy to nepotistic because you don't want to think outside the box. We as citizens need to hold them accountable because they will not want to do the extra thing or make the extra effort to reach beyond that circle. So we have to point it out that, Mr. President, no, do this right. Relieve this person, change this person, make it right. Because if we do not do that, they will remain docile. Unfortunately,
we have to go. I want to thank you very much. Fumi Dosumu Ayola, political analyst, and Mr. Sam Adeleke, he's also a political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you.
We'll take a break for our Plus Politics packages, and when we come back, I'll give you my take.
Yeah. Just give us your take.
The Islamic movement of Nigeria has described the continuous detention of its leader, Ibrahim el-Zakzaki, as unconstitutional and an assault on his fundamental human rights. The group, in a press conference in Abuja, says the controversial leader and his wife, both under house arrest, are in urgent need of medical attention outside the country. The group, while calling for the unconditional release of el-Zakzaki, also accused the Guards Brigade in Abuja of being used as tools to suppress its members whenever they embark on peaceful protests within the nation's capital.
These guard brigades that are only answerable to Mr. President comes out on a daily basis and use all sorts of ammunition, including 50 caliber machine gun, on peaceful protesters, who include female children and people of age that comes out on the street to protest against the illegal detention of their leader, which is their fundamental right. The Constitution has offered them this right to protest against anything that you feel you are not convinced, you are not satisfied by the government. You should come out and protest. And this is a government which claims that it is a democratic government, which I and you, everybody believe that any government that massacre its own citizens can never be termed as a democratic government.
The perpetration of the persecution against us continues non-stop. The letters of which is the crime, the letters of which was that committed in October 2018 during Arba symbolic trade in Abuja, where scores were killed and hundreds fared injured. On the 25th April 2019, a delegation of expert doctors and consultants led by the Islamic Human Rights Commission gained access to Sheikh Zakzaki and his wife, and they conducted initial medical investigations on both of them. The report stated that Sheikh Zakzaki sustained multiple gunshot injuries, particularly in both of his eyes, his left hand, and his right leg. All these occurred on the 14th of December 2015. However, he underwent extensive surgeries in the eyes. Recently, there is the issue of chest pain as well as breath shortness that are disturbing the Sheikh. The report also stated that Malama Zina, the wife of the Sheikh, also sustained gunshot injuries, most especially in her abdomen, and blunt facial trauma causing fracture of the nasal bones. The medical report of Sheikh Zakzaki and his wife revealed that the couple needs urgent treatment that could only be obtained outside Nigeria. The doctor strongly recommended that the couple be allowed urgent treatment in efficient health facilities abroad on medical and humanitarian grounds.
Well, it's time for my take. Concerning the PDP and party loyalty, I believe that although party loyalty is very important, you cannot hold the votes of the members ransom simply because they are part of your party. This is a country filled with people, and in an election, every citizen has a right to do whatever they want to do or vote for who they want to vote for, whether for good or for bad reasons. But then, of course, the question marks all around this one. And politicians also have that right. So creating a committee that will find out who betrayed who is unnecessary unless they signed a legal document, you know, that could hold them accountable. But on a second note, betraying your party for selfish reasons is also wrong. So where is the loyalty here? Dear Nigerians, we have to do better. Now, talking about former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was in the news again, he's stating once again that, saying that he would be talking about the issue of nepotism. He's speaking the truth about the fact that nepotism somewhat is fueling corruption, and these are truths that we cannot ignore. He might not be saying all of this out of his lack of support for the current administration, but he's opening our eyes to what is happening. Now, nepotism, according to him, is corruption because although it has nothing to do with siphoning funds, bribery, and money laundering, it's robbing Nigeria of the right leaders, and hence, we're not getting the right results. So government is not a family affair. It should not be treated as such. And that's all I have to say for tonight. It's been Plus Politics. I'll see you next week. I am Mary Ann Nicole. Have a great day.